Hello, welcome to the KIDSTAGE training. This is our winter training in peer leadership, peer mentorship, student leadership opportunities. Uh, I am Janet. I'm the Senior Education and Outreach Manager. Got a title change, and I don't remember it now. And welcome. This is a little meeting of minds as we can talk about all the things that we love about KIDSTAGE and love about teaching, and learn some new things that hopefully help and enrich our teaching practice, and therefore enrich the experience that our students have in our classes and in KIDSTAGE as a whole. That's really what this training is about helping us put practice and content together in a way that really helps our content stick very well with our students and helps enrich their understanding of it and their application of it moving forward. I want to start with just a quick little icebreaker. And I was emailing April back and forth, and I feel like I sort of stole her thunder with my icebreaker question, but she graciously allowed me to do it. So I'm going to put the original icebreaker question that was in my head and then a little optional spin if you'd like to answer the opposite instead. So we're talking about opportunities for student leadership. So I wanted you to think about a time in your life as a young person, doesn't matter what age to me, where you had an opportunity to have some sort of student leadership. And tell us about that. And the opposite of that question is, if you can remember a time where you were in an experience where student leadership was not used and that like you really remember that. And I open it to anybody to start, and then we can popcorn it around.
I'll start, Janet. Hey, everybody. Rico Lastraps, he, him. I'm the Institute Manager in Issaquah. And the minute you start talking about the student leadership, I thought back to my former life of being a band kid. I went to an arts high school for music, so I never had the opportunity to do marching band because we didn't have sports. So when I first was pursuing music in college, I was so excited to be a part of LSU's marching band from Tigerland, and it was so fun. And I got cut from the pregame number. So I was a little bummed about it. And I got lucky because during the practice one day, I realized that no one was standing in the assistant conductor spot to help conduct a portion of the field. And I kind of just moved forward a little bit and started doing some things. And one of the assistant coaches came by and gave me some pointers. And then I kind of just started doing it every rehearsal. And eventually we had a game against Florida and we were marching into the stadium. And he walked up to me and he goes, "Hey, we're doing a flyover, so you're on." And I got to actually conduct. I was the youngest person to conduct the Tiger Band. So it was like really cool opportunity. It was first time that I was really like learned that, oh, if I just step forward, sometimes things can magic can happen. And I will send it to who am I gonna put on the spot? Let's put Andrew on the spot.
Hello, my name is Andrew, he him pronouns. Let's see. Time when I forget what show I was working on, but I was working on a show at Cornish, and I think it was my sophomore year. The TD was just out of it for a minute, and we were in jeopardy of not finishing a build, which for all of us that are involved in that class, that's when we took pride on, was that we always delivered on what was asked of us. So in the middle of it, we kind of all got together, because then it just wasn't working out, and it wasn't one person that took the reins. It was kind of a collective group that we were just like, okay, let's sit down, let's see what we got to do, let's see what has to be done left and right. And well, we smacked out one of the most gorgeous sets I've built in up until that point. But that was one where it was really nice to see a bunch of us come together and just be like, no, here's what we need to do. Here's what we need to get it done by, and go from there. So yeah, I'm gonna pass it over to Riona.
Hello, my name is Riona. I use she, her pronouns. I teach in Issaquah. And the first thing that came to mind, one of my first like student leadership experiences was when I was in ninth grade in choir, and I was like, my older sibling before had just graduated, so I was like kind of familiar with the teacher and stuff, and I was just really excited about choir and being a part of like a program and stuff. And I think it was like one of the first days my teacher had been gone, and I had been like picked to lead part of the class. It's like a student leader, and I was like, I was like trying to keep my calm, being like 14 years old, my first time kind of like standing in front of my peers like that and like leading a kind of group. And it just like really like set me up and encouraged me to like step into more leadership positions like throughout high school, which like encouraged me to study like music ed throughout college and my life and stuff. So it just really set me up for success and like got me excited about being a part of a program like that and like collaborating with my peers and stuff like that and being in a leadership position, and it was awesome. I will pass it to Haley.
Hi. First one that came to mind was in my high school drama class. Our big summer assignment was to write a play for children, and then we would direct and tour it around elementary schools in our district during class hours, which was really fun because you got to leave campus during school. And I got to direct for the very first time one of these plays. It was like a fairy tale princess, but like she was really tough, and there was a bunch of sword fighting and combat, which was really fun, and I'd never really done stuff like that before. And it kind of, here we are now doing children's theater. So that was, looking back, a very pivotal thing. I'm gonna kick it on over to Renee.
Thanks, Haley. I'm Renee. I use she, her pronouns, and I teach on Saturdays in Everett. I went to a school like in Harry Potter where we have different houses. So when I was in the 6th grade, I got to be the house captain for the junior school, which was super fun. And I think Rayana really like hit the nail on the head when you said it was the best thing about it was collaborating and feeling like I was leading, but also I was getting to be the voice of my peers among the adults and just getting to have a little bit of like authority over what we wanted to do, so that like the experiences that we got to have, things like our chants and just like how we were going to show up for our houses and support each other and support our team, we got to decide, and that was kind of on our own terms. And I think that that was like a really good thing as a young person to be like, oh, like my voice matters in this space and in other spaces, but that was like the beginning of learning how to use my voice and to speak for other people. And I will pass it to Mackenzie.
Thank you. Hello. My name is Mackenzie. I use she, her pronouns. The first opportunity for student leadership for me that comes to mind was I was probably a junior or a senior in high school, and the studio that I danced at had one teacher that taught every single class, did everything, and she would really utilize former students or current students to sub her classes if she ever needed a sub. So she asked me to sub one of her classes for some of the younger students, and that was like the first time that I taught a dance class, and teaching dance is now my favorite thing to do. So that was like the start of that, which is very cool. And I also want to add separately, I remember moments in high school where other students were leaders. I wasn't the leader, but other students being the leaders, and having those be some of my most memorable times of like having other peers, usually older, but still lead me, because I remember just thinking that was really cool. And I will pass it to Kate.
Hello, my name is Kate Yeager. My pronouns are she, her, and I've been going back and forth between two, but I think the youngest one, I was in probably 3rd grade, and my PE time was gendered, in that the boys got to play soccer and the girls had to play on the bars. Um, and there was a lot of discontent about that amongst the women around me at that time. And so I elected myself to be the one to go and talk to the PE teacher about how it was unfair and why it was unfair and how it needed to change. And ultimately, it led to integrated PE, that we were allowed to play whatever we wanted, which I didn't want to play soccer, so it kind of bit me in the butt a little bit, because then all of a sudden they were like, "Yay, you play soccer now!" And I was like, "Oh no, no, I was just trying to make a point." But that was the youngest leadership that I can think of, and I will pass it on to Blair.
Hello, everyone. All right. So I'm Blair Smith. I'm the Education Programs Manager at Issaquah, and I use she, her pronouns. And the first thing that came to my mind was a kind of a mixed feeling about leadership. And my dad hosted this like cousins Bible camp thing, and it was like being forced to like always hand out the papers and always have to be a leader of some sort. So I kind of had like that, like, it's like something heavy that I have to do situation on it. And then it kind of turned into a good thing, because then people were asking me like, "Oh, where's this? Oh, what is this? What a blah, blah, blah." And then I felt like a boss, because I was like, "Oh, well, that's over there and this is over here." And, so I felt like all knowing, but that first kind of, the first interaction was when it was forced on me. It felt heavy and like a responsibility, and that I wasn't necessarily choosing for myself. But I'm sure there's 100% other experiences, but that was just the first one that came to mind. Let's see. I'll pass it over to Mike.
Hey everybody, my name is Mike and I teach acting on Mondays in Issaquah. And I immediately thought of an opportunity I got when I was either a junior or a senior. I went to a very, very small charter performing arts middle high school in Southern California. So we had maybe 50 kids total, like in my whole theater department. And my teacher was very swamped with the productions, and we were a school that like we did a lot of festivals and competitions because there's a lot to do down there. And my teacher was really overwhelmed with the productions for both middle and high school, and he asked me if I would help direct the like festival pieces, which were just a bunch of like 5-minute 10-minute pieces for like all the grade levels. And I was stoked because I knew that I wanted to try directing stuff. But it ended up blowing up. I ended up having fun putting the scripts together, helping people get their scripts together, and even got to cast a few of the groups. And that it became more of a full like, oh, I'm behind the table and I'm helping cast these things, and I'm making like these creative decisions. And so that really kind of got the gears turning and made me shift more towards directing. My degree's in directing, and I have more directing experience at this point now than I do performing. So that really put me on that path, and just inspired me to kind of seek more leadership roles, and being more on the creative side. And it also that was like the turning point, I think, in my social life. I started making more meaningful connections and friendships just through being in leadership, and also like encouraging others to also take the reins. Yeah, I really found just that was when I found my niche, I think. And I try to do that now as an educator. You see a kid who has that same spark, or like is always speaking up with the ideas, and you're like, you're a director. And I just always think of when my teacher did that for me. I am gonna pass it to who hasn't gone yet. Um, okay, Susie.
Hello, everyone. I'm Susie Bixler. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the director of youth education. And my kid just came home from school all in their snow gear. When I think of like a leadership, oh, there's Charlie. When I think of a leadership position that like stood out to me as like my first like time where I felt maybe kind of like I was finding success as a leader was when I was a junior in high school, and none of the people in the literary magazine wanted to be the editor. So I stepped up and said, I'll do it. And I just remember setting up like having so much fun, just like with the teacher stepping back and stepping away. And I got to come up with like, what's the process that we're going to select the things that go in the literary magazine, and, you know, kind of getting to run the room and be in charge for the first time. And, you know, and just getting a little bit of side coaching from the mentor. And I remember just like going, oh, I really like running something. It's really fun. And then I ended up being the literary magazine the next year as well. And just a funny side note, I had a mystery pen name, and I would submit my own stuff, but it was under a pen name, so nobody knew it was mine. And that was really fun. Anyway, and I will, I think Marguerite had raised their hand as needing to go. Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marguerite. I use she, her pronouns. I'm an instructor in Everett. And the thing that comes to mind when I think of student leadership opportunities, in high school, I was on the drama board from sophomore year to senior year. And I took my roles very, very seriously. And I loved getting to serve on the drama board and getting to be part of a group of students that got to help things like building the sets and stage management and all these different tasks that were really helpful now in pursuing theater and getting to see how a show is put together, getting to see what adjudications are like. So it was a really cool opportunity, and also a really safe space as a student to have that mentorship of, this is what this looks like, this is what this can be, getting a feel for what some of those management opportunities are, and then also having teachers and volunteers be able to help the students like figure out what that looks like and what it can look like for them, and really set me on the path to being eventually a theater major and theater person. So I always love looking back on my time in our high school theater society, as we called it. Is there someone who hasn't gone yet? Casey, have you gone?
I haven't.
Oh, popcorn to Casey.
My name is Casey. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the Associate Director of Youth Education, and I'm going to answer both with kind of one answer about the positive and the not positive. So the positive is, well, I when I was 16, I applied for this program at this place called Village Theater, and I got to be a co-choreographer of a summer independent production. And the rest of the team, I had never met them before in my entire life, and they were all like 19 and 20. And they all knew each other. So I felt very like empowered in that moment, like getting to be with this group of people and learn from them, but also like be in that for the first moment of time. And then I did that program for a long time. And then I wanted to like do summer stock one day. So this is the opposite version, but it turns out to be a positive. And I was like, I would really love to learn how to be involved in summer stock. And at the time they were like, well, we don't hire anyone for, and there was no one here. We don't hire anyone for those jobs that don't have college degrees. So that's the first step for you. And I was like, that doesn't seem right, and made me work harder. And so I just kept being pestersome. And so that's how I ended up working on a summer stock. And I didn't have a college degree until I was 30. So, you know, like you win some and you lose some. But yeah, it made me push harder and persevere because I felt comfortable in that space. And I'll pass it to Anna Maria.
Hi. I wasn't much like of a club joiner as a teen or a kid, and so Claire and I were joking that like most of the leadership experiences we have is being oldest daughters, and um, And I am one of 20 cousins, and I'm the second oldest girl. So I would say like my oldest, like that I remember the most is like when my cousin Carmen and I really wanted money to go buy candy, and we were like 9 and 10, I think. And we scammed all our younger cousins into like acting out a play for us and that we directed. And and we made our aunts and uncles come and see us and pay. But it was also like my first job negotiation because my younger sister took all the younger cousins and was like, unless we get paid, we are walking, we go on strike. So it was like my first labor negotiation. So between the 8, 9, and 10-year-old, I would say that was like my first leadership experience. But in all honesty, I feel like I don't think I was considered in that way or offered any of those opportunities as a teenager or young adult in college, really. It wasn't until much later. I'll pass it to Claire since she's right here.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Claire. Pronouns are she, her. I'm an instructor in Issaquah. This is Luna. But I feel like a lot of my leadership opportunities were accidental. People heard it rumored that I played the piano. And so it would actually be like in absence of planned leadership. It was like, Claire, get up there. The rehearsal will not proceed unless we have music. So yeah, that was kind of patterned in, honestly, as young as middle school and high school, even into college. Some of my first professional opportunities were like, is there a pianist in the house? So it was a lot of like, kind of, I joke because my degree is in acting that some of the best acting I've ever done is as a person in music leadership. So pretending that I knew what I was doing as I was doing it for one of the first times. So I don't know, perhaps I'm getting ahead of ourselves in terms of like what this taught us or what we learned, but I think that's something I'm always really cognizant of as an instructor and teacher, is not preemptively putting that on students and or fostering an environment where they feel supported even as they're doing things for the first time. Jade, your turn.
And Jade may not be able to speak at this time. So I was just remembering times when I first started to get involved in performing, it was at my church. And I remember we had a big group doing drama for a couple of years in the church I was in. And I remembered looking up to some of the older kids and the leadership that they were providing to me. Same when I got into high school and I was looking at the upperclassmen who were on the drama board and in the thespian society and just admiring them and wanting to listening more to what they had to say often than what the teachers had to say, learning more from my peers and wanting to be them. So, and now here I am. So thank you for that. Jade, you're driving. Are you able to answer the question?
Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah,
yes.
Okay. So if I'm hearing the question correctly, it was like when we first remember our first leadership role.
Yeah.
Yeah. So while I was driving, I was thinking the first time I remember being a leader was my senior year. There was this event that we did my junior year called the spring dance and the spring festival or something like that. And my teacher was like, "Oh, we're gonna cancel it for the senior year." I was like, "No, we have to do it." And she was like, "But no one is in charge of it. No one wants to do it." I said, "I'll do it," because it was so fun. And I was like, "We have to do it." So it was like really taking charge of finding the vendors for food, finding quotes for bouncy houses, and making sure all the clubs were in charge of an activity for everyone to play a game. Like the drama club did acting exercises, and the chess club had the chess game out there with the big chess pieces. So it was finding opportunities for everybody, creating backdrops, putting on a whole event. And that was really, really fun, and I really enjoyed that. I always did those types of activities in leadership club and ASB and stuff, but this was my project, normally it's teamwork, but this was all on me because nobody
you so much. All right. Well, thank you. Is there anybody who didn't get a chance to share? Did I miss somebody? I hope I got everybody. Well, thank you for sharing that. The thoughts that everybody had on what their experience was, and I think that's going to serve us well. So I just want to reiterate that what we're doing here today is providing tools for you to enrich your existence as a teaching artist, so that in turn, as you weave these in with the content that you're teaching to students, that it's enriching their experience in our classes. These are always just to help, rather than something that is like looming over you that you're going to be judged on. KIDSTAGE as an organization observed classes last year, and we made some decisions based on what we saw of things we wanted to focus on as an organization, things that we thought would enrich our students' lives, and that we hadn't quite equipped our teachers to be intentional about moving forward. So we set as goals, if you've been here, you remember these, empathy, which we started incorporating in the summer. I mean, we do it anyway, but we started to be more intentional about it. And then our growth mindset that we started to be intentional about in the fall. And we thought, moving into some student leadership, going into the second semester, or the second half of the school year, was a good time to bring that into our practice, if we weren't already using it. And I would guess, based on your answers to this question, that we do it. So it's just more about recognizing the ways in which we do it, so that we can just clue up the intentionality just slightly, when we are doing those things. I'm really glad to say that this group of people are probably not the humans who find that they are doing every single thing for their students. Like, I'm sure you've all seen those parents, right? Like, no, you have to. I'll use my coworker Angela's example, that she told me when my child was a toddler, that she always wanted to be the one to turn on the faucet in a public restroom for her son, because she would do it with a paper towel, and he was having none of it. He was going to turn on his own faucet, and she shared this with a mentor parent to her, and her mentor, that friend said, "Honey, you don't want him 16 and behind the wheel of a car having never turned on his own faucet." So just that moment of, I don't think you're the teachers who have to be the one to hand out every single piece of paper. Like, if you're teaching 5-year-olds, that's a leadership opportunity when the kids get to hand out the papers. So thank you for already being people who bring this into your practice. You already know this, the impact of it on yourselves. And yeah, so with that, a little reminder of our community agreement of be kind, be safe, be brave, and have some fun. I'm going to turn it over to April Miller of Schools Out Washington, who is rejoining us for the content of this training. We've been working with Schools Out Washington for years, and with April for only slightly less those many years, but we always appreciate her perspective and her support of our organization. Over to you, April.
Well, thanks, Janet. Hi, everybody. I'm April. My pronouns are she, her, and I am just delighted to be here today. I'm going to do this a little bit differently than normal. I want to keep us on screen more than in PowerPoints. I want this to be a conversation, and I'm coming with a coaching approach versus a training hat, if you will, not presenting as much as facilitating dialogue. I mean, the last half hour, I think there's lessons already learned about what leadership means to us and could mean to our youth. And so we're going to be playing with that even more as we move forward. I realized that I didn't structure a break into this, and so I am going to make sure we get a break, because this is a long time. So I'm thinking probably in about a half hour, I'll give us a quick break to stretch and go to the bathroom, whatever you need. If you need a break sooner, please just take care of yourself. That's a priority. Your wellness is most important, because it's really hard to learn and contribute and just share with one another when your basic needs aren't taken care of. So I have a water here for myself. To get what you need, take care of yourself, please. Okay. Everyone agree to that extra little community agreement? Okay. You're not required to turn your screen on, but I love seeing your faces because it really engages me, helps me to move forward, and I think it's going to support each other. But you're welcome to keep it off if you need to and participate how you can. Okay. So I want to just share a couple of stories too. I didn't share with you all, but I was thinking about a leadership experience that I had in high school. I was a sophomore, and I actually loved theater, musical theater, and was a drama person, but I didn't get to have access to that until high school, really, because of a lot of movement growing up. Um, but in high school, my sophomore year, one of my friends, Tony Hobson, and actually, I don't know if people might know who he is because I think he's still directing and producing, but he wrote a script called Walking on a Thin Line. And our drama teacher said, "You can do the spring musical." Well, it was going to be a play. And then my other friend, Kathy, she's like, "I can write songs for that." And so this production became a musical production, and then we all got cast. So it was all done by students. I was one of the lead characters and got to contribute to like making edits to the script for my character and collaboration with the other characters. It was just so much fun. And we performed that for the mayor, and he proclaimed it as Walking on a Thin Line Day and gave us this like scroll. It was super cool. So that was an experience that it wasn't the first experience, but it was experience that really was powerful. And what I loved most about it, it wasn't that it was a collaboration of students, and how our drama teacher, Miss Beatty, supported that rather than kind of like took over. She never took over, but she was always present and always encouraging. So that's the story I wanted to share. So now I want to ask you, and I want you can shout it out, or you can put it in the chat, whatever makes the most sense for you. But I want to hear, we're talking about youth leadership, but right now I want to just hear from you. What does leadership mean to you? What words come to mind when you think of leadership? And what I'm going to be doing is typing into a PowerPoint what you're saying, and I'm going to be showing it to you in a little bit, but I'm going to be collecting everything you say and sharing it back out rather than just showing a PowerPoint, if that makes sense. So I want to hear from you. Responsibility. Yeah. What else? Say that again, Jade.
Challenging.
Challenging. Yeah, that's a word that comes to my mind too. Being an advocate. Accountability. Organization.
Growth.
Say it again.
Growth.
Growth. Yep. Anyone else want to shout any out? We got collaboration, forethought. This is all from the chat. Empathy. Opportunity for empathy. A voice for the people. A voice for the people they are leading. Oops, I lost it. And representing. Yeah. So take a look at all those words in the chat. Here's some more, Jade, for you to hear. Being the expert, being a representative of the group, someone who is willing to take the reins on a project while also using the strengths of the team. Curiosity, decision making, elevating others. And I want to share a word, not a word, but a statement from Brene Brown. She says, "A leader is anyone who takes responsibility for finding the potential in people and processes and has the courage to develop potential." So developing potential in who, in what, right? That courage to develop others. That's a different way of thinking about leadership. It means that we don't have to know everything, but we have to be willing to learn and grow. It means I think there's some vulnerability in leadership. Okay, let's reframe this. And now I want you to do the same thing. And I want you to think about what words come to mind when you think of youth leadership. Are they different? Are they the same? What's coming up for you? Might not be one word.
I think what's coming for me is having it's like a lot of the same, but also having a safety net of for failure.
Mm-hmm. What other things come up for you when you think of youth leadership? Could be feelings. What do I feel when youth lead? Or when I'm thinking about letting youth lead? Being a positive example. It's important. Feelings of anxiety. I'm curious, is that anxiety from you, or is that anxiety that the young person might be experiencing, or both?
I'm just recognizing how often I'm actually feeling anxiety.
Okay. Yeah. Because what happens when we allow youth to lead?
Maybe I won't be needed.
What else is coming up? I see for youth leadership having a clearly defined role with clear expectations. So setting up structures is what I'm hearing from that. And Blair writes, opportunity to fail.
I think a lot of times it supports like community buy-in and collaboration.
Mm-hmm. You want to tell more about that?
Yeah, because I feel like other people see that their peers are gaining options to become a responsible leader in the room, and so they want to work together and like listen with each other and support each other.
When it's working.
Yes.
When it's not working, what's going on?
It's hard to like they tend to not listen to each other at all then, right?
Mm-hmm. So what that tells me, there's some scaffolding that needs to happen. And actually this happens for adults too, right? We're just not always as kind about our or vulnerable about our own learning and needing something scaffold. But we know that when a person leaves a position and a new person comes into that position of leadership as an adult, that sometimes other folks will leave the organization, or like, I don't want to work with that person, or like there's tensions there. Young people, when we create leadership opportunities, we also have to create opportunities to practice empathy, like it showed up earlier. We are also thinking about how is this person developed in their social awareness and relationship skills to collaborate with others? Because leading isn't just being a boss. There's many other factors involved in that. And kind of going back to Brene Brown's quote of finding potential in others, it's not about ourselves, rather it's about supporting those that we're leading. So just some interesting dynamics within that. Thanks for sharing that, Casey. Conflict training. Yeah, that can be useful because conflict training, it's not just about conflict as negative, but rather that conflict, we can have healthy conflict. It's maybe the way we're seeing something, different perspectives. So helping for reframing and things of that nature can be really useful. Okay. So I think it's important that we frame those words because we're talking about youth leadership. So let's keep those words in mind as we go about this training time together and in our dialogues. And I want to go back to the exercise that Janet had shared with us. And you had a chance to think about one of your experiences. And I would say the majority were high school. I'm going to challenge you to take 2 minutes to think about leadership at different times in your life or lack thereof. So I would actually like you to think, I wrote down kindergarten through 5th grade as a window, middle school as a window, and high school. So if you've thought of one of those already and shared, I want you to consider the ones that you haven't. I also, if you have any recollection of time before school, preschool time windows, pre-K, if there's any leadership that you recall doing at any of these ages. Another way to think about it is framing K to second grade to third to fifth. Think about the way you structure your classes. Okay. So what were leadership opportunities for you at that time? And I'm going to give you a couple examples before you reflect on your own. One example in elementary school that I had for leadership was a crossing guard. And I think I was in like, I don't know, third or fourth grade. And I got training to be a crossing guard. And I thought that was like the coolest thing. And I was saluting police officers, all the things. And it was a dangerous street. And I got picked to be on the hardest street. And, like, oh, I thought that was pretty cool. So that was one. I don't remember a lot of adult support. I remember another youth training me and then just doing it, getting out of class early and going and doing it. Early elementary school, probably like first, second grade, I remember kind of going around. I didn't go to any after school programs. And at this point, I remember living in one neighborhood where basically we would go outside and hang out with the other kids in the neighborhood. And I would bring everybody together and we would play Gilligan's Island. That kind of dates me. And I would like help them to figure out who would be what role. And I told them this was the island and this is the area we could play. And then we would play Gilligan's Island and all have characters and play it out. And we would do that after school, like all the time. No adults, no presence of adults anywhere. The lights came on outside. That meant we had to go inside and we were done playing. So those are a couple examples. I remember a friend of mine making up games on the playground, and we would play games. Again, no adult engagement in that. So kids can find some leadership independent of adults. So I just wanted us to keep those things in mind. I really appreciated the example that was shared, and it was Anna Maria, you shared about like how within your family there's leadership and how that showed up. So just want to acknowledge the many different ways leadership can show up, but really I want you to think back to earlier times or where it didn't show up. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't remember any opportunities in middle school for myself. I can't think of any. And that's my experience. I just don't remember kids having the opportunity around me, and I don't remember myself having any opportunities. So at least around leading or mentoring. I had responsibility, a lot of responsibility, but not specifically leading others or mentoring others. Okay, take 2 minutes, reflect on your own, and then you're going to be going into a breakout room for about 8 minutes, and I want you to be prepared to share one of those other memories with a partner, and then we're going to come back and have a conversation about what came up for you. Okay? If you want to turn off your cameras for 2 minutes, go for it. Okay, I'm going to invite you to come back. And Janet, if you would be willing to open breakout rooms, and go for it, join.
I'm going to pause recording while these are going on.
A few more to come back.
As our friends finish up their conversations. Pat on the blab.
She's all grown up from when I was bottle feeding her in meetings. Now she's a big girl.
Yeah. Welcome back, everyone. How was that? How'd that go? Was it challenging? A little bit? Okay. Yeah, I find it challenging, especially when you see where there's gaps, where we might not have had access to something that we know might have been a great benefit for us. Um, and I think about that and just think about like my own experience, I mentioned that in my growing up, that middle school window, there wasn't a lot of leadership opportunity. And I also try to think about what was happening for me at that time. I actually had kind of a broken up experience going to school between kindergarten until middle school, where I moved frequently, which interrupted my ability to engage in leadership. And yet I still noticed and saw when kids had access to those things or not, whether I was having access to it or not, or had ability to be a part of it. But so I know that it's challenging to figure that out. But what I can say is, at that window in my life, I didn't have a lot of adult supports, and I was living in a new place, and so it was difficult to to find my space, find that place. And I didn't have adults that helped me to find opportunities. And so it was kind of awkward and scary to do that on my own. Once I got into middle school, in elementary years, I was a little bit more obviously willing to do that, like out in, like in the neighborhood kind of thing. But I just didn't do that in middle school. Then high school came, and I feel like I've got really lucky with an incredible drama teacher, an incredible group of friends who encouraged me, and we were encouraged by adults. So I think those are things to think about, is what access I had. And there was a bus that would take me home. So I could stay after school and I could go to the things that I wanted to, whereas before I didn't have those options. And so just important to think about who has access and what that looks like. So I want to take a few minutes to talk about a couple of questions that you didn't necessarily focus on, because I asked you to think about those earlier experiences or maybe middle school experiences, times that you didn't or any name. What I want to know is what adult supports were helpful or could have been helpful. What comes up for you when you think about that in the stories you shared with each other? What adult supports were helpful or could have been helpful?
I'll go.
Yeah, thanks.
One thing that we kind of got into the conversation of was those like micro volunteer opportunity, or not volunteer, but leadership opportunities of being line leader, or hey, will you go hole punch all of these stack of papers, or will you move all this from one place to another, or make copies, or blah, 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 that kind of stuff. And for me, those sometimes can be like little micro tests, if you will, of like, okay, this person can handle this. Okay, they can handle this. They're ready for another chunk. They're ready for more. They're ready for that kind of thing. And sometimes when given a task and not knowing how to do it because they've never done it before or anything like that, it's not that they're not capable, but just that they don't know how. So like, I've never used a copier before. So if I knew how, then I would excel at this little leadership opportunity, but I don't know how. So I'm, that kind of thing. So those
Wow. Yeah.
opportunities to teach, if you have time to teach how to do the task, so they can be set up for success.
Thank you. I see a lot of head nods relating to that. What else? Yeah, Renee.
So when I was just chatting in that group, then I was telling Casey that my school had a motto or like a mission statement that was enter to learn, go out to serve. So like in everything that the teachers organized, my mom also teaches at the same school that I went to from kindergarten to grade 12. So everything that they do, every activity is organized around that mission statement of like, we are setting up these kids to go out and to be leaders in the community in whatever capacity that is. So we were talking about those awkward years, and it was grades 7 and 8 that seemed to be the years of like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing now. I don't want to have those same opportunities. But when I was in grade 7 and 8, because there weren't those kinds of opportunities, but there was that expectation from the adults around me that said, this is what you should be doing, this is what you should be aspiring to be, I went and found opportunities for myself because I wanted to fulfill that expectation that had been set for me. And by the same token, whenever I would reach out to the teachers or older students in my community, there was an expectation for them to then lead me through those different opportunities. So in having that like group ethos and that safe space of, I know that this is what we're all expecting of each other, and if I seek help and ask for these things, there will be someone who will help me or help me find the right direction to go for those opportunities. So just having that community, kind of a community agreement that this is what we're striving for, there was always that place to go.
Thank you. Yeah, so something about, I really appreciate the expectation. It's really like a high expectations or clear expectation that's centered around that shared mission, vision, philosophy, motto, that's saying, this is what we do. This is a part of who we are. And then that wasn't just of the youth, but it was also of the adults. And so there's an intentionality, it sounds like, within that. Okay, thank you.
One thing that our group touched on was making sure that youth leadership opportunities are not a veiled way to alleviate adult responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
If that makes sense, because I feel like
Yes.
sometimes it can be like, you just identify who seems like the most responsible, capable child in the room. And it's like, great, can you go do this thing? You know, I mean, I think we've all been there at some point in time, but making sure that like those opportunities are arising from a genuine desire to give youth an experience, as opposed to kind of pass off responsibility or have help with some form of classroom management.
Yeah, and like making sure to model like collaborative leadership for them and what that looks like, so they don't think that leadership just equates to like the loudest person in the room. So like it also gives opportunity for our quietest students, who sometimes are like the most observant and might have like sometimes the most efficient solution because they're paying attention in a really quiet way. And then making sure that students have space to fail, because failure is part of life, and like that it's okay, that it's like more than okay if they fail.
And we had also kind of touched on that it's inevitable that failure will happen.
Yeah.
Reframing what that looks like, but additionally realizing that like staying in leadership is not contingent upon success, perhaps, that like sometimes you will fail, and that doesn't need to mean that you will lose future opportunity.
Okay. There was one thing that you said about that modeling collaborative leadership stuck with me for a moment. I just wanted to highlight that opportunity for all, but that leadership can look different, and we get an idea in our mind of what leadership is. Is there a way to also notice different forms besides just maybe the idea that we think we're just, it's only if they're directly leading a group or teaching, like in front of a whole group. What else can that look like? You know, the behind the scenes leadership that can shine in different ways, and then explicitly naming this is how it's leading, how you're leading. So so it isn't like what you described. Oh, where is it? Like adult responsibility that's being kind of pushed off onto a young person, but rather an interest that they're really passionate about and get excited and motivated by, and it's benefiting them, and you can see that benefit shining through. Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, I'll jump in real fast. Something that I'm thinking of now with the conversations that are happening is a phrase that came up a lot during our institute evaluations. A lot on each day, the phrase "silent leader" kept coming up, and about how just how when students are modeling a certain behavior and or acting a certain way that isn't necessarily being like loud leadership, let's follow me, but demonstrating the etiquette in the classroom, for lack of a better term, and just highlighting that, taking the time to highlight the fact that that is leadership in a way, and getting the youth to think about the different ways that they can lead, and just like affirming their leadership. Then it's like a cycle. It'll just make them want to then dive deeper into potential leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. So it feeds it, and they want to grow it and cultivate your quote. It's like a seed growing. It's just growing more and more.
And I just want to add to like acknowledging that like different cultures have different definitions of like what leadership looks like. And just making sure we are making room and space for that. Like for, you know, it's some cultures, instead of like one dominant leader, it is very much like every single person gets a say, and we weigh every single person's voice, and like and that's a practice that also should be honored and embraced in the room. Like sometimes like knowing that leadership doesn't necessarily mean we move quickly. It just means we may move equitably, which is different in terms, and it bumps up against capitalism quite often.
Yeah, and I think in doing that, being explicit that this is leadership as well, right? That again, leadership can look different ways, and culture influences that greatly. Thank you so much. Okay, I have one more question for you to challenge the thoughts that are coming out. How did these leadership opportunities that you had benefit you? What were the benefits? And I'd like you to do it in a waterfall. So I'm going to give you a minute to put it in the chat, but don't send the chat yet. And then on a count of 3, 2, 1, we'll read it. Okay. So take a minute to write down the benefits.
I'm so sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. How did these leadership opportunities that you've spoke about so far today, how did they benefit you? What skills did you gain?
Thank you.
And if you can give me a thumbs up when you're ready, that'll help me know. We're almost halfway. Okay. Almost there, about 3/4 ready. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, waterfall. Here they come. Now I would love if there's a volunteer who would like to read it in kind of a poetic fashion. I'm sure there's someone in the room that would love to read these out loud and share them with us. Benefits of leadership. Okay, Kate, go for it.
I'll do it.
Just gotta find the start.
Yes, I think I found it. Helped with decision-making skills, knowing my ideas are valid and building confidence. Saw myself as a person who could bring people together. Sparked creativity, perseverance and stronger sense of self. learning to work with others collaboratively, when to step forward and back and advocate for others. Helped me to be confident, even though I am very shy. Gave me a voice I didn't know I had. Learning how to traverse the different versions of humans. Student focus, building confidence, improving content retention. Feelings of responsibility, empowerment, gain self-confidence, ability to make own decisions. Leadership opportunities allowed me to discover what I was passionate about and enjoyed, allowed me to explore a new role in a space that I was familiar with. Sense of importance. Able to test myself and build competency made me feel proud and hungry for more. Learning to be brave, a waterfall of change and other leaders emerging. Listening, listening, listening.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that, reading those. I appreciate Anna Maria or Claire, I don't know which of you, put the word waterfall into the chat, which like brings it all back together. So it's a leadership waterfall. We're cultivating leadership through this waterfall. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So, any of those sticking to you right now? Particular ones that you heard? There was one that struck me that I was like, oh, I haven't heard that before. I like that. Yeah. Jade?
Listening, listening, listening. Yeah, I like that. Gotta listen.
Yeah. I think it's so important for us to think about these benefits, because when we're feeling those moments that showed up earlier, Janet, you spoke to them, the anxieties or the feelings of, the fears that might show up, or the control or the worry or whatever it might be that stops us and causes us to take over and intervene, or to just try to get it done and be task oriented and take care of the things because there's so many things to do, or whatever those things may be. Or on the flip side, where we give youth leadership and responsibility, but it doesn't feel meaningful, or we're not thinking about it intentionally. These words, these benefits, to me, they are like a breath of fresh air. They're like, oh, this is why. Now I want to do this. And those came from you. So there are other benefits. These benefits that you named are, are recognized as key benefits. And I'll share some more information around that. I'm skipping a couple slides here, but and I'm going to put you into the PowerPoint and share. So where are we? Can you see my screen? Yeah, okay. And I'm just gonna move where did it go? Hold on. It disappeared. Okay. And I just want to save from current slide. There we go. Okay. So what do you see? Do you see my notes or no notes?
We see your notes.
Of course.
Well,
yeah.
it says no notes, but we see that.
I don't know why it's showing that. I'm just gonna do it this way because these two screens are not functioning properly. Okay, so where I want to focus is right here. Key youth experiences preparing youth to thrive. Thinking about those benefits that you just described. In out of school time, some of the work we're doing right now is looking at what does it mean? What are the skills, the social emotional skills that we want to support young people with? And promoting responsibility and leadership is an area, a competency, a social emotional learning competency that the Preparing Youth to Thrive and the Forum for Youth Investment have identified that creating these opportunities for youth to experience building skills in our program, building confidence in our programs, having meaningful roles in our programs, encountering difficult demands, and experiencing challenge, and yet moving through those challenges and experiencing accomplishment are key to developing or promoting responsibility and leadership in youth. Down here, and when I send this to you, you'll have access to this. I'll pop it in the chat in a little bit, but there's a whole Preparing to Thrive guidebook that you're welcome to look at, and it talks about these promising practices and the ways that the key youth experiences that we want for youth and youth want, and the practices that will support us in reaching those. The pictures on these slides, I just want to let you know, they're all from Norway. I went on a trip to Norway this last year, and so all of the slides you'll see later, and you'll see them here out for a little bit, have images. So this is called a stave church, and it's in the town of Lom, and this is a river, but it looks like a castle almost in the backdrop, and this is it was from like, I think 1100 AD. So just a little picture fact there. So I want us to take a few minutes and think about how we can cultivate these experiences. And how we're going to do that is we're going to focus on 3 different staff practices or teaching artist practices that can help you to get there. The first is structure. And this came up when we first started a conversation earlier. At the very beginning, some folks were talking about what the structures are in place, and they've come up throughout. So the mottos, there's a structure within that we've created. Open-ended rules that we provide that are built into our plan. We're thinking about these things, that they're in place, and we have clear expectations. And that yet with those expectations, there's sufficient flexibility. Okay. The second is modeling. So that also came up in all of the notes that we've taken today, is that adults can model leadership, and wanting to see, as Brene Brown was talking about, is wanting to see the best in others and support others' growth and development as a leader. So adults can model leadership, and in so fulfilling their own roles will help young people to see, oh, this is something that I can do. So if adults are modeling that mistakes are okay, youth are going to feel more comfortable stepping into those roles, because an adult has modeled that, hey, even we all make mistakes. It's part of the process. That mistake is helping me to determine next time what I might do a little bit differently. Asking for feedback. If an adult models asking young people for feedback, inviting that input, making change related to the feedback that they share, when we're modeling feedback and willingness to receive feedback, like, what can I do differently that will support you in this class? I was at a program the other day. It was a culturally specific program, and they were doing literacy work and together. And the teaching instructor had just gone over community agreements and said, so those are the agreements, but what do you need from me? What agreement do I need to make with you? And they're like, no yelling at the students. And she said, yeah, and writes it down. And they're like, wait a minute, we are not supposed to yell at each other. And she's like, yeah, and I'm not going to yell at you either. So I'm like, wait a minute. And then there was a silly one, like, no dancing on the table. She wrote no dancing on the table down. And she's like, I don't plan on doing that. And then one of them said, no learning. And she said, well, part of our time is to learn together. What if we have a certain amount of time for learning and a certain amount of choice at the end? And they were like, yeah, let's add choice in, and and they felt good about that, and they added that as an agreement. So I guess what I'm trying to share is that modeling of leadership and hearing the voices of young people and being receptive to feedback and being open to changing and being flexible is going to cultivate responsibility and leadership in youth. And then finally, coaching. So this third approach is that we're here with them. We can provide encouragement. We can promote the structures that we put in place, which are those expectations and accountability to the leadership responsibilities that we've worked out together in co-creating that role that they're going to be doing. And third, supporting youth's ownership, empowerment, and latitude for decision making. So making space for those supports. So these are some ways that we can cultivate responsibility and leadership. This shows up, to Janet's point, in the program quality assessment, the social emotional learning program quality assessment, which is a tool that we use every year at in the program where we observe some classes and then come together and score this assessment tool using those observation notes of snapshots of days in different classes. And then it falls within these scales. And one of the scales is promoting responsibility and leadership. And this was an area that last year you all decided was an area of importance to continue to grow and expand what we're doing here. And so that's where the data came from. And within it, it has some very specific strategies that can help cultivate responsibility and leadership, keeping in mind those three pieces of structure, modeling, and coaching. We can support young people in these 5 areas. So the 5 areas are the first, and I put them in groups because we're going to be doing a grouping, but we're going to take a break before we do that. So these 5 areas are staff creating opportunities for all youth to be responsible for assigned tasks or activities. So responsibility is a way to increase leadership. So what does it look like in your class to be responsible for assigned tasks and activities? A second area is youth carry out roles or responsibilities independently without adults taking over intrusively. So intrusive doesn't mean that we can't support. It just means that we're not taking over what we've asked them to be responsible for. Okay. A third area is staff create opportunities for more than one youth to mentor another youth. So this can look as simple or as complex as you want. Simply, if you've started an activity and a young person comes late, for example, instead of going over and showing them what to do next or give them some instruction, you can invite one of the kids who wants to volunteer to catch up the person who came in late. That would be an example. Another example might be that they share feedback with each other on some scene work they just did, and they practice constructive strategies to provide supportive feedback to one another. Another strategy is to create opportunities for more than one youth to lead or teach others. So this isn't a one-on-one. This is a group, but it can be a small group. It doesn't have to be a large group. It can be a large group. It can also be a co-leading situation where a few youth are working together as a team to lead a group. Yeah, so there's lots of ways that can show up or take part in contributing to leading the group. I saw a group do something like that with yoga exercises, and they each shared a yoga pose, and then the other kids would do that same yoga pose that the young person was doing, and then the next person would go and share one if they wanted to or they could pass. So it's creating the opportunity, but it's not necessarily a requirement, it's a choice. And then lastly, staff create opportunities for more than one youth to share ideas or their work with the full group. So that's presenting to each other, something they've been working on. So that's that final one. So I'm going to stop my share for a minute. We are going to take about a 10-minute break. When we come back, we're going to be going into breakout rooms, and you're going to have an opportunity to be in one of these groups. So I'm going to have Janet help me to get those groups set up. When you come back, we'll get you set up in those rooms. And what you're going to do is think about opportunities where you can provide either structures, modeling, or coaching to young people in each of those areas. Okay, so go ahead and take 10 minutes. We're going to come back at 4:40. We'll see you in a few.
April, just confirming, I've got 4 rooms. Nope, don't know what I'm doing. Hang on. We're going to do 4 rooms, or maybe 5. 5 will be 2 to 3 participants in a room. Is that okay? You're muted.
I'm trying to decide if there's 4 rooms, how many people are in there?
3 to 4.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
And put group 1 and 2 together. I'll just make that one group.
I can create 4 totally separate. different breakup rooms.
Yeah. I just want them to each have a number that they know which one they're focusing on,
Oh, gotcha.
if that makes sense. So group 1 will be doing
1 and 2.
mhm,
Okay.
and then yeah.
Do you want me to label them then?
They aren't going to be self-selecting, I don't think. So I don't know that you have to label them. It's just knowing what room they're in.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right now I've got them created.
Mhm.
And it's set for 14 minutes with a 60-second countdown after that,
Okay.
which is
And
what you had written in your
yeah.
notes. Do you want to change that?
Nope. No, I think we're okay. But my only concern is that there's also a form that's going to go in the chat at the top of the page. If you could copy that and pop that in the chat.
Yeah, you bet.
Because that's going to give them the information that they need. And I think the numbering might be off, so they'll, like group 2 will actually, do you know what I'm saying? So you might have to.
No, I understand about putting it in the chat. What I don't understand is the last bit you said.
So on that form, it says it has number 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, but the way they're grouping is group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. So I just, so that means group 2 is going to actually be working on item number 3.
So let me open that Google form up, and can I change it?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks. Perfect. Yeah, if we would have had just a couple more people here, I'd be okay with doing 5, but I just think 4 will be better.
Is there a reason why my computer won't just open this? There we go. Okay. So group 1, I'm just going to write it. Group 1 is doing staff create opportunities and staff support youth to carry out roles.
Yep.
Oh, you have to give me edit access.
Oh, I thought I did that already. Okay, hold on. Just a second. Of course, these things always. Okay. Share.
I should have stopped recording.
That's okay. Welcome back.
She's gonna go bark.
All right. So this next part, I just wanted to give each group, these expert groups you are, a chance to share back with the other groups who didn't get to learn about or explore the particular item you did. If you could share back something that stood out to you, maybe it's a leadership practice that you're already doing or one that you're thinking about doing. But if there's someone from the team or the team together wants to share a couple of strategies that came up for you with the rest of the group, that would be wonderful. So we will start with group 1.
I can talk on our group.
Thanks,
so yeah, so we had staff create opportunities for youth to be responsible for assigned tasks or activities. So under structures, we talked about a bunch of different things, but some of the specific ones that we mentioned were in choreography moments, having opportunities to help each other out on those. There's the leadership and also setting aside time for them to work on that in class and ask the questions that are needed if they have any. Passing out supplies and a sense of shared accountability and responsibility on handing them out to each other, all the activities, and also helping students be responsible for the projects or whatnot by helping goal set as a group or individuals of creating a time management creating time management schedule or skills or whatnot, and how they could do that as groups or individuals. And by modeling, or in the modeling category, teacher does this the first day and then everyone else does it the following days. And the teacher, a really important part of that is that if the educator owns their own mistakes in that space and takes accountability for it, as well as collaborating with the co-teachers to show that we're all leaning on each other and how positive relationships work and partnerships and that kind of thing, and how to collaborate with each other if they should need it in the think, pair, shares or anything like that. And in coaching that, valuing this is in Buttermilk, but valuing the student's moment over perfection. So we don't need to be perfect, and normalizing that in the classroom, as well as asking pointed questions of it, and keeping things open-ended so they can come up with their own answers to certain things. There we are.
Yeah, thanks. Any thoughts from the group? Anybody want to add anything there? Something that's kind of standing out to me as you were talking about the group work your team did, Blair, is that sometimes our role as the teaching artist in that moment it now looks a little bit different, because now we're facilitating this leadership with more intentionality. The things that we're naming or the way we're doing it might look different than we did it before, even though we were talking about growth mindset before, mistakes or opportunity. Now it's like we're applying it to something different. So instead of applying it to maybe something that the group has to accomplish, also applying it now to when we're in a leadership position. So it's like connecting the knowledge. I don't know. That just kind of stood out to me as you were sharing. Very interesting. All right. Thank you so much, group one. How about group two? This is the one about creating opportunities for youth to mentor.
I can share for group two.
Thanks, Rico.
Yeah, of course. So we were talking, I think the thing that stood out for us in this was the movement that we do it already is by student feedback, and how we can set the students up for feedback in a way that promotes asking more intentional questions or sharing. It was kind of interesting to think about one-on-one in the setting of being a teaching artist in classrooms, and all of us are institute teachers as well, and on my group. So it was we were just talking about how this could apply to the program differently. And for institute in particular, we discussed if there are ways for us to do like youth panels, or a sort of way to have like not more experience, but students that have been in the program longer, starting off the year, orienting the students that are new to us, instead of necessarily being just led by the teachers and throwing them into the deep end, and how that could be a way to do a bit more, not necessarily one-on-one mentoring, but mentoring in general, kind of getting more student buy-in. And that was kind of the gist of our conversation, really. We found it interesting applying mentorship with our program.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone else wants to jump in from my group and speak more eloquently, please feel free.
Yeah, I would say that was the gist of what we talked about. It was also like a conversation on like for Saturday classes specifically, and how to do mentoring, and like that choice of word of like how students can do it. And so trying to figure out how we can have students mentor other students in that age group. It was a little challenging for sure to figure out a way of like how to have them do it specifically. So
And which age group is that again for Saturday?
I mean, for me, Saturday classes are kindergarten through
senior years. So it's hard for me to think of a way, but they all split up. So it's like K through second, or first through second, and then third through fifth, and then sixth through 10th. And so they're all to get like separate classrooms. And so it's like, how do you have these students that don't really might not know, So yeah.
I think it's really important for us to be thinking about those things. It's challenging to think about the differing age groups and what might be the needs and where are they at, and being able to, because you're not only like, they're not meant, it could be peer mentoring. What does that mean to peer mentor when they're still learning the skills too? Well, it's that we're learning a skill together. We can peer mentor each other as adults. We can do that with kids as well, but maybe we need to provide some scaffolding on, like, how do you provide feedback? I've seen a group, I feel like was even at a KIDSTAGE. There was a group that I got to see, and they were doing like I can't remember. It was like faces for emotions, but the words didn't like go with the emotions. I don't remember what it was. It was a long time ago. But then there was a group watching them trying to guess what it was. And then after, they paired up and they talked to each other about what they saw them do. And just kind of relayed back what they saw. And by relaying it back, they're providing feedback, even though they aren't like giving any advice or anything else. They're just relaying back what they saw. And I thought that was interesting to think about, like, well, what it's noticing and then sharing that, and then that person being able to think about it and like, oh, I want to try it this way now. I just don't remember the activity fully, but I guess what I want to offer is we have to think out of the box. And as soon as we think out of the box, ideas start to flow in, as far as like, it doesn't matter the age, it doesn't, we can find ways to make this happen. It just requires taking some extra time to do. So we can play with that more. Let's go on to group 3. Staff create opportunities for youth to lead or teach others. Yeah.
For group 3, we had providing information for structure, like what's the pertinent information they need to know about this role, setting up class rituals, and demonstrating how that goes. So then the students are able to take on that leadership role and perform it and lead the other students based on what has already been in place in class. For second category of modeling, talked about asking for feedback as an instructor, so the students can see that it's okay for them to ask for feedback as well. And then coaching through constructive criticism, modeling what a constructive comment would look like, or even just a shout out of, hey, I saw specifically in this moment you helped so-and-so with the dance step. That was really cool. And then they'll have kind of a language to work with of how they can provide that criticism and provide those next steps for each other. Yeah, and if anyone wants to jump in from our group, I know those are other people's ideas as well. Yeah.
Other thoughts from any other team members from group 4? Yeah, I really appreciate the thinking about not just the structure and not just the coaching, but the modeling and how our actions impact how young people see leadership. When we think back to our experiences, we often think of also whether it's another youth that's leading and we see it and think, oh, that's awesome, I want to try that, or an adult, and we learn from what we see in action happening. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, group 5. Oh, was there a group 5? Yeah. Oh, no, 4. Sorry. Staff create opportunities for youth to share their ideas and their work with the full group.
So a lot of it was a lot of group activities that we've all done throughout our classes. Whether it come to like having a group choreography or staging type experiment, or versus, on my side of teaching, where I'm teaching on the tech side of things, being in those lead roles of design, both process, but also implication, and using that, going through everything that we've taught them throughout the semester, throughout, the quarter, whatever, using that to then basically giving them that agency to, with a group of people, go through those steps and go. So like having, and kind of, this is also kind of including with the coaching aspect of it, but giving them this is what your end product needs to be. You're giving them the parameters of said project, the end goal. and then helping them through through the beginning processes of those steps. Not the right way to word that sentence, but we're here. And allowing them to also listen to the other groups as they're sharing throughout this process, because we're all in tight quarters when it comes to this, so everyone's kind of hearing what everyone else is talking about through and through, and then through the group presentations being like, oh, that's that decision, or they start asking about how they got to that, because then I've seen it happen where they ask that and the next project that they're on, they do the exact same thing, and I'm like, oh, that's why you asked that question, now I see you. Yeah.
I find it really interesting that those presentations are great moments. It's kind of like the dress rehearsals, right? Like the before they do the performance, those are maybe it's too late, I don't know, but throughout, I don't know enough. That's not my field. But what I want to name is that those moments where you're presenting to the larger group something you're working on, those are moments where you can create opportunity for peer mentoring. Those are great opportunities because they've just shared, and now they're going to be receptive to hearing, how did that go? It's an opportunity for empathy, for one, showing kindness and care for the people that just worked really hard. So practicing empathy is an important piece of this, but also that supportive feedback. What is it going to look like so that it actually can improve the quality of what they just did as they move into the next thing they're going to do, right? Like as they move into sharing that with a broader audience versus their peers. So helping them, through coaching to develop those skills for how they can provide supports through presentation, through peer mentoring, through leadership, and through responsibility is going to help them overall have a better experience across the board in your programs. So, okay. I want to thank you, give you snaps for the hard work you've done. I want to honor the time because I know there's some other folks that are going to be sharing and presenting. As we close this out, I want you to think about, you've thought about some things you're already doing. What's one simple way in the snapshot of your day with the youth in your classes? What are a simple way that you can infuse leadership in one of these ways with your youth? And just put it in the chat. And I'll give you a moment to do that. They'll be there for you to read. I'm not going to read them out. I'm just going to invite you to look through them at the end, and then I'm going to pass it back to Janet. So thank you for having me here today. And feel free to give any you see up there, any kudos, little hearts. Yeah, they can lead or co-lead activities. They can partner with us. We can do it together, or they can, more than one young person can help with that. Oh, lots of responsibilities, Janet. Yeah. So great. Coming in now. All right. Thank you all. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I'm going to pass to Janet, and she's going to share what's going to be happening next.
April, thank you so much. Let's
Yeah.
give claps and snaps for April. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your expertise with us today.
Well, thank you for sharing your wisdom and expertise. There's a lot you're already doing.
There is a lot we're already doing. Yeah, I like it when people like name and claim what they already do. So thank you. Friends, at this time, if you are involved in Saturday classes or after school enrichment, which isn't any of you except for Saturday classes. We do Saturday classes. Please remain on for some last minute logistics from Blair and Haley. If you are institute only, you are free to go at this time. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Have a wonderful weekend. And for you lovely humans who are in our Saturday classes, I'm going to hand it off to Haley and Blair to give us our last minute logistics.
Wonderful. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for your time and your energy and all of your thoughts being shared on how we can continue to promote leadership and student responsibility and that kind of stuff in our program. All great things to think about. And since a lot of you are, most of you / all of you are returning teachers to this next season, we will honor your time and give you a chance to connect with your co-teachers if that is something you need, and or ask us questions and whatnot at the end of this. But we're going to do a brief overview of Moy's here, just so you know if you hear yelling or anything. There we go. Open my thing. But to start us off, I will speak from the ISQA side of things, and then Haley will talk about the Everett side of things, and feel free to ask questions or whatnot. In terms of day check-in and check-out, as you know, we will indeed be continuing our sign-in sheets of the time capture. Just sign it daily before you leave, as well as we will be taking attendance in the lobby, and you can get ready for your class. But we do love to see like just a hello in the lobby to check in with parents or with the students, say hello. And when we are at time and most of the students are there, you can come grab your class and go into the space. There will also be we are still doing the red envelopes, and in Issaquah we're getting better at it. But the red envelopes with attendance, so you will be able to take attendance in your class. And this doesn't go anywhere. It stays in the room. So in each red envelope will be the attendance for any class that's going on in that space. So it'll be yours, and then the next one that's in that room, and the next one that's in that room, that kind of thing. There will also, for the first day and whatnot, please make sure to check and see that any allergies or any special notes or medical notes that should be on the roster for any of your students. Yes, and in a case of emergency, that is the folder, the red folder is the folder that you will take with you outside. Now, we have our own one with everybody's contact information, but for you to take attendance in the room, so you know who should be there, who should not be there, or who your students are, and you can take that folder and go in case we get separated at any point. In Issaquah, the emergency location outside the building is going to be the railroad tracks out. Well, if we're at Hunt Family Theater, the railroad tracks train depot station in the back. Train depot, you're already at the emergency location. If you're at Main Stage or FJG, it is the bench by the bank, which is right outside. And in Everett,
yeah, for Everett, clean and simple. In case of an emergency, make your way out to the fountain in the plaza, and we'll all gather there. We are still using the red folder. It's like we did last time, and like Blair said, if there's any sort of allergies or any notes, behavioral, if there's anything really significant that we think might impact your planning, we'll let you know ahead of time. But other than that, they're all noted on there, or we will just let you know. I keep them on that digital attendance sheet that I have, so they are always there for you to look at. Also name changes or anything like that, pronouns, all that kind of stuff that just, first day we're meeting new people, and feel free to jot that down. I try to keep those up to date as I can if students add or drop from the classes. Um, for supplies and curriculum, when you get a moment, send us what you're thinking about doing. It does not have to be a beautiful spreadsheet gauntlet um novel of here's everything I'm planning to say and do on each hour, time stamped. Let us know what your goal is for maybe the end of the curriculum. What are the core skills you want to work on? If you have any questions about anything like that, let us know, and what supplies you need. That is also just really helpful for us. So if we need to go out and fetch something, we can go and get that for you. Yeah, and we are a resource, me, Blair, Janet, if you want to talk about classes, if you have student questions, or if we're getting into the semester and you're having troubles with a student or some part of your teaching or anything like that, you just want to bounce ideas around with, we are here to help you with that. Um, yeah, Blair, what else did we want to check out? Janet has something.
Sorry, I just wanted to float this out as I'm thinking this for the first time, and I apologize to my coworkers for just like plopping something on you. But it occurs to me this is the first time we've done a 14-week session in our recreational classes, and that we are broken up in chunks by school breaks. So we have a week off in February. We have a couple weeks off in April, and each location it's slightly different which weeks it is. So if you want to think about if you are the sort of person for whom an entire 14-week plan at this moment before you've met your students seems daunting, get yourself to that first break in February and then plan for some sort of little bit of mini assessment of where are we here? Where did I hope we would be by here? And where are we? And then get yourself to that. From then plan to spring break in April. Like, this is where I hope we are by April. And then check in after break. Like, are we where I hoped we would be? And then get yourself a plan to the end of the class. So take it in 3 mini chunks if it feels like it's too daunting to do 14 weeks at a fell swoop. Thank you.
Totally. Yeah.
Yes. And I was also going to make note that please, I just dropped in the chat the days that we do not have class. Those are the dates. If you are planning any sort of trips, or you know you're going to be gone, the sooner you let us know, the better, so we can find a sub for you. I appreciate all those of you who have already communicated that, but just as a reminder, keep us in the loop. That in Issaquah would be myself and Janet and Lisa, if you wish, but definitely me and Janet, and then in Everett to Casey and Haley, but definitely to Haley if you're like, oh no, I forgot, I'm going to be gone, blah, blah, blah. An email works best, but also verbal reminders just to keep us on the game. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and if it's, a matter of I woke up this morning and I feel really, really sick or COVID positive or something like that, or hey, there's like 800 car accidents on the highway and I'm running really slow. You guys have my phone number. Please don't be afraid to call or to text me. Sometimes, that's just the fastest way, and totally okay with me. Just speaking for Everett.
Yes. And everyone on this call, I believe, has my number as well, but I'll drop it in the chat just in case. That is also the fastest way to get a hold of me. Like last session on site, we will have myself each day, as well as Lisa, our KIDSTAGE assistant. And this session, we do have a student volunteer, Claire Jones, is going to be kind of popping into different classes and being a teacher's assistant as our leadership situation amps up and we find opportunities for students that are hungry for more. Additionally, Janet will be floating between locations. So if there's a certain something you want to talk with Janet about in person, make sure to check in with her to see if she's going to be on site at our location that day. And in Issaquah, you should have already received the block schedule with who your co-teacher is. So if you still need that, please let me know. And like last time, if in terms of curriculum, as Haley mentioned, you do not have to have the full thing. And as Janet was just saying, do not have to have the full thing. This is just for us to help guide you in supplies and thoughts here and there, and just be supports to you.
I had one other thing to add, which is that we will be coming into several classes, probably not all classes, but several classes to do our annual observations that are about our program. So just like we did how we came up with the goals that we've been training in this year in empathy, growth mindset, and student leadership, we will be doing some observations across the whole program. So that will be coming up. I think we're going to do those again in late February, then again in late April. So to get a couple of different snapshots of the same classes. So you may see me, you may see Susie, you may see Casey, like we may go cross location. Anyway, you're going to see extra people in your room at some point. And that's all we're doing. We're looking at the program, not looking at you.
And we'll do our best to let you know if like, hey, next week or this week, we're going to pop in. If you want to like tell the students like, this is who that is, but also, yeah, this is for our feedback for ourselves. So yeah. But if we're in there, like, hey, can you look at this? Totally. I think that it's just about all for me. Blair, do you have anything else?
Not necessarily. Any questions from the group? Any concerns? Anything? All right. Does anyone need anything in terms of being successful as we get started?
Just a heads up that Mari is still out on maternity leave. So if you have any payroll questions, I'm the person to chat with in the meantime. Hopefully she'll be back soon. But if you have any problems with your check or anything like that, and you should see the teaching hours that will show up on this next paycheck that we have, or if you had any meetings in early January, those will show up on this next cycle. So any payroll questions, head to me. Thanks.
All right. After this meeting, should you think of anything that you forgot or need or have a question, is this possible? Please let us know. We are here to support you. And with that, Janet, if you have anything to.
I'm going to stop recording.